Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new Open Forum Excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Good evening, Chris. Thank you for taking my call. I have a couple of questions on Ezekiel. The first verse is going to be Ezekiel chapter 2, verses 1 and 3, please.
Ezekiel 2, chapter 2, verse 1. And he said unto me, Son of man, stand upon thy feet, and I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and set me upon my feet, that I heard him that spake unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that hath rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day.
And then the third verse is going to be chapter 4, verse 1.
Ezekiel 4, verse 1. Thou also, son of man, take thee a tile and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem.
I've done a little research on the Son of Man in the book of Ezekiel. I saw that it's used 92 times. And that breaks down to 2 times 2 times 23. And the first two verses you read, chapter 2, verse 1 and 3, I wonder why it was capitalized.
Why the word son is capitalized?
Yes.
Well, that would be the translators who are understanding. They probably shouldn't have done this, for the sake of the text. They're understanding that God is setting up Ezekiel as a type of Christ, as Christ is called the Son of Man. And it's capitalized also, Ezekiel 3:1.
Right.
And Ezekiel 4:1, it's not capitalized.
That's right.
Yeah. So thou also, son of man, take thee. See, that's the problem. If you're going to do that, you should be consistent. And there's nothing in the Hebrew, in the original language, that would lead them to do this. I'm pretty sure. I think this kind of thing, it's something translators have done. And for instance, sometimes in Revelation, where we read in Revelation 17, it says in verse 5, upon her forehead was a name written. And now everything after that is in bold letters, capital and bold, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And again, that would not be in the Greek text. It wouldn't appear that way. So the translators are emphasizing things, and really they're going beyond their duty as a translator. They're basically highlighting certain things and trying to emphasize it to the reader. Same thing with Son of Man. It's basically an indicator to the reader. Remember, Jesus is called the Son of Man in the Gospels. And that's how we should receive it as, they happen to be correct that Ezekiel is being used as a type of Christ. And especially this sending, stand upon thy feet, I'll speak unto thee. The Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me and set me upon my feet. And Son of Man, verse 3, I send thee to the children of Israel. And that is God sending the gospel in the time of the judgment beginning at the house of God and the latter rain period. The reference to stand upon thy feet, we can think of the Apostle Paul, or when he was Saul of Tarsus, God appeared to him, stood him upon his feet. I send thee. It always has to do with being commissioned or being sent. I send thee to the Gentiles. It also related to salvation. Or Revelation 11, the two witnesses are lying dead in the street 3.5 days. And then the Spirit of life from God entered into them. Just as it says here, the Spirit entered into me, and they stand upon their feet. And that has to do with the dividing point of the Great Tribulation after the 2,300 evening mornings. And what Ezekiel 2 is really highlighting is the twofold task God assigned his people during the latter rain period, which was to go to the world, go to the nations, the Gentiles, with the gospel, that the great multitude be saved. But also, here I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. That's to the church. So there was direction from God to declare to the churches that judgment was upon them, that, the church age was over. And if you look, verse 5, and they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, it was to tell them you have to get out of the church. You must leave the church. Will they hear? Will they forbear? For they are a rebellious house. Yet shall they know that there has been a prophet among them. Rebellious house is repeated at the end of verse 6. Though they be a rebellious house, the end of verse 7, and in verse 8, but thou, son of man, hear what I say unto thee, be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat that I give thee. So it was a dual purpose, dual task to send the gospel that the great multitude outside the church be saved, but also a direct addressing of the rebellious house, the corporate church. And Mr. Camping, I think, carried this out, very well over the Open Forum program. If you go back and listen to the Open Forum, from especially, say, 2001 to 2011, a lot of calls dealing with the end of the church age, and Mr. Camping addressing it and speaking basically to them, speaking to pastors, speaking to elders, speaking to the church members. You got to get out. You got to get out. Judgment is upon you. And so just like today, we have a dual task. It's not the focus of Ezekiel 2. The focus was the Great Tribulation there, but our task is to bring the gospel to the nations, to feed the sheep, that great multitude, while simultaneously, it's a dual task, judging the world with Christ, pouring out the 7 last vials full of the wrath of God upon the inhabitants of the earth. And so maybe some people have noticed, I know there's been some people on Facebook, because we have a group, Atheists Are Without Excuse, and I'm often speaking to atheists or speaking to secularists, that come when we share and advertise on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. And I'm addressing them directly, because that is the shift. The object of God's wrath is, well, it's the church because they're part of the world. But the object now, the main object, is the world itself. It is secular society. It is the atheists and secularists and people who, are not necessarily familiar with the Bible or in the churches. We are sharing God's judgment on the world, on the whole world. So, of course, there'll be more conversations with people that are in the world. Just like there was conversations with people in the church when the focus, it was exclusively on judgment on the church.
Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. That way you don't miss any upcoming videos.